On December 27, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media now. Here's your host, Donal Ware.
Thank you for joining me on this edition of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Tuesday, October 31st. I'm Donal Ware. It is, in fact, Halloween. Have a happy and safe Halloween on today. Look, you know how we do things here on Takeaway Tuesday. I mean, let's actually kick things off with our HBCU National Players of the Week. Tennessee State defensive lineman Terrell Allen, what a game he had. 4.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss. He had 10 tackles, 7 of those solo, 2 forced fumbles in the Tigers' 43-20 victory over Lindenwood. And he's had a phenomenal season. He leads FCS in forced fumbles, sacks, and tackles for loss. The other HBCU National Player of the Week, Albany State quarterback Deontay Banu, had a phenomenal game, 351 yards of total offense. He was also responsible for 4 touchdowns, and we have some more tidbits on both of those players. You can log on to our website at boxtorow.com for more information on both Allen and Banu. So let's kind of take a look also at the weekly coaches and media polls, which were released on yesterday. The coaches and media polls, no surprise in the coaches poll. Your top 3 teams are North Carolina Central, Florida A&M, and Tennessee State. Obviously, no surprise there. As a matter of fact, the 4 top teams in the coaches poll remained the same from last week. When you throw in Alcorn State in there at number 4, Jackson State moves up to number 5 this week, up 1 spot. 6 through 10 looks like this: Southern, Alabama State, Howard, Hampton, Alabama A&M rounding out the top 10. Alabama A&M, the only team that's in the poll that lost on last week, of course, lost to Alabama State in the Magic City Classic. In the media poll, the top 6 teams remain the same: Central, FAMU, Benedict, Virginia Union, Tennessee State, Jackson State. Then you've got Virginia State at 7, Fayetteville State at 8, Alcorn State at 9, Tuskegee at 10. All of the teams that were in last week's poll remain in the poll this week. The difference is Fayetteville State drops 1 from last week, as does Tuskegee. I guess the voters felt like those weren't as strong as of wins as Virginia State. I mean, Virginia State put a pounding on, I forget who it was, Bluefield State, I think, but they put a pound, it scored like 75 points. And then, of course, Tuskegee barely got by in its football game. I think it was against Clark Atlanta. So the certainly when you look at the voters may have penalized those 2 teams. So let's look at some of these races, because these races are kind of coming down. You know, even though the MEAC season, in essence, conference play, is only 2 weeks old, I think the conference is already set in terms of who the conference championship is going to come down to. It's going to come down to North Carolina Central and Howard, I think. Now, these 2 teams meet on November 11th. That's going to be a big-time football game. Of course, the 2 teams have games right in front of them. But this is the issue. South Carolina State falling to North Carolina Central. Not only does South Carolina State have now 1 loss, whereas Howard and NCCU have 0 losses, but you're in essence 2 games behind North Carolina Central with the head-to-head matchup. Same thing with Morgan State, only one loss, but again, in essence, right now, 2 games behind NCCU, and then Norfolk State and Delaware State both have 2 losses. So I really do believe, and anything can happen. Like with the MEAC, Morgan can still play spoiler. Still has an outside shot to win it. I just don't think it will happen at this point. In essence, or in other words, for the Bears, you've got you're behind 2 games with 3 left to play. All right, so Central wins 1 more game. That's pretty much it for the Bears. So that's why I say Howard may be really that only team. And that game in a couple of weeks will be an excellent football game. And really both teams need to keep their eyes on the prize, because while Norfolk State is 0-2, Norfolk State's a dangerous team. I just think if they get if the Spartans get more consistency from the quarterback play, then it would bode better. And then the problem with Howard is at South Carolina State. Now, even if Howard loses to South Carolina State, and let's say NCCU wins, the head-to-head matchup is still really big time. And as long as Howard sort of ended the season without any more losses, including 2 Central, then there's no more shared title like we had last year. I thought that was just, it made absolutely no sense. I get it. Both South Carolina State and Howard each had 1 loss, but Central beat Howard head to head. So anyway, I think they've rectified that and gotten rid of that. Look, the SIAC is where we really, it's not settled. And let me tell you this, it's not settled to the point that it's not, there's 1 week left. There are no more divisions. And that's why I like this a little bit better. I like it better, but it becomes a little bit more confusing down the stretch. This is the thing. Even though Benedict is undefeated, Benedict still has Allen remaining. Okay. Allen has 2 losses, has beaten some good teams. Like even Allen with 2 losses is not mathematically eliminated, nor has Benedict mathematically punched its ticket as an undefeated team, punched its ticket to the SIAC championship. Tuskegee's got 1 loss. Tuskegee and Miles play next week. Fort Valley State's got 1 loss. Fort Valley State and Albany State play next week or this upcoming week. And like I said, I thought Miles had the toughest road, but I did not see Miles losing to Albany State 48-7. Okay. I'm trying to figure out, and the conference has not released all of these, the different scenarios that could have taken place. Talk with someone at the conference office last week, said it would be released this week. I hadn't gotten anything. The bottom line is Benedict, Tuskegee, Fort Valley State, and Allen are still in this thing. I don't see a path for Miles. But, because the problem is a lot of the teams haven't played each other. And then once it comes down, like we had the MEAC deal going back to 2015 when you had 5 teams that shared the conference title because everybody had beaten everybody. And the determining, you had all of these tiebreakers. The ultimate determining factor was how the MEAC teams did against non-conference FCS opponents. And Morgan State was 2-1, had the best record against non-conference opponents. And so you're going to have all of these different tiebreakers. But if you can believe that, Benedict with 0 losses there's a way that the Tigers could not play in the championship game. And there's a way that Allen with 2 losses could leapfrog Tuskegee, Fort Valley State. By the way, guess who plays this weekend? Benedict plays Allen in obviously it's in Columbia. Both teams are in Columbia. Boy, I'll tell you what, we can look at that Virginia State, Virginia Union football. What a season it's been for teams out of the CIAA and the SIAC. Okay, you've got 5 teams that are in the media poll. And you go back a couple of, you go back maybe 5-6 years ago, there was a faction that really wanted to separate Division II from Division I. I've never believed in that. Yes, we have a Division I coaches poll, okay, but the coaches vote on that. Hard to ask the coaches to vote on Division II teams. We have a Division II coaches poll. Hard to ask the Division II coaches to vote for Division I schools. But when you talk about the media, you can rank these schools in terms of a top 10 each week. And that is what the media has done across the country. With the media poll, you've got 5 teams from Division II in the media poll. And that's why I say what a season, because look at this also, right? Look at this scenario. Your CIAA Northern Division is going to be decided in the Tri-Cities area. I can't remember if the game is at Richmond or in Ettrick or where Petersburg is. But the winner of that game is going to win the CIAA Northern Division and play Fayetteville State in the CIAA championship game. So that's in that area. Virginia State and Virginia Union are separated by like 20 miles, 25 miles or something like that. And then wouldn't you know it, Allen and Benedict are both in Columbia, South Carolina. Wow. That is awesome. And I mean, now it doesn't mean that the SIAC championship game will be decided or that game will decide who goes to the championship. I think it goes a long way. Obviously, if Benedict wins, then we know Benedict is going to the championship. But wow, that is absolutely outstanding. That's why each week matters. In week 9 of HBCU football, it mattered. It was great. It was exciting. And this is where we are. Like, I'm trying to think back. I mean, even if I look at the MEAC right now, I mean, it's pretty much Howard and North Carolina Central, but those two teams still have to play in a couple of weeks. Even in the SWAC, I mean, I look at the SWAC, Florida A&M has already wrapped up the Eastern Division with 3 games remaining, right? In the Western Division, I think Prairie View A&M probably got set back, but you're still looking at Alcorn State. You're still looking at Southern, and then to a lesser degree, Grambling, who was able to bounce back with a victory on this week. So, you've got a whole lot going on in the respective conferences. Wow, let's look at Tennessee State, even in the OVC Big South, Big South OVC. Tennessee State still's got an opportunity, right? Only 1 loss. Probably, I don't know how much Tennessee State could win, but I think Tennessee State may have a chance at the FCS playoffs if it continues to win. West Virginia State, boy, they've hit a tough spot. The Yellow Jackets were, at one time really on a roll, but unfortunately, the Yellow Jackets have hit a bit of a lull here. Lost 3 straight ball games and probably pretty much out of the Mountain East Conference with a 4-3 record. Now, still 3 games remaining. Anything can happen. I just don't see where West Virginia State would be able to make it to the playoffs. Okay. You have to, winning the conference doesn't even give you an automatic berth, but it gives you a really good shot. And right now, where things set, West Virginia State's not in a good place. And then an at-large berth is probably out of the question now for the Yellow Jackets. So a lot going on in HBCU football. Week 9 was exciting. Week 10 promises to be absolutely phenomenal, as the CIAA Northern Division will be decided and the SIAC, in terms of who plays in the championship game, will be decided as well. So that's a wrap on today's HBCU Football Daily Podcast. If you've missed any of our podcasts, whether it's this year or going back to when we first started this thing in 2017, you can log on to our website at box2row.com. You can also always watch the HBCU Football Daily Podcast on the Box to Row YouTube channel. Talk with you later. Have a great rest of your day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at boxtorow.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.